Hi everyone, my name is Paul. Welcome back to Beautiful British English, where we give you bite-sized English fluency lessons. Today I want to show you how you can use some very simple words, some very simple vocabulary to extend your answers in any of your English speaking and writing exams. Hi everyone, welcome back. So today we're talking about how you can extend your answers when you are speaking and also when you are writing in an English exam. Now you can use this technique in any situation, but it's particularly useful for exams. Yeah, and this technique just requires us to learn how to use 6 words: who, which, when, that, whose and where. There are other words that we can use as well, but we're going to concentrate just on these 6 words. These 6 words are known as relative pronouns. Relative pronouns. Yep. So I'm going to show you a way that you can use these 6 words in any of your exams. It could be IELTS, TOEFL or any of the Cambridge exams, whether it's in your speaking exam or your writing exam, to extend your sentences so that you can achieve a better score in the exam. Right, so let's start with these 6 words. Who, that, which, whose, when and where. What do these words mean? Okay, so who. Who is obviously a pronoun that we're going to use when we are describing people. Yeah? Who is that man over there? Yeah? So who is being used or will be used to describe people. It could be yourself, it could be anyone you want to talk about. The word that is going to be used to describe things. It could be anything. Yeah? That's what that would describe. The same with which. Which is a pronoun that can be interchanged with that to describe many, many different things. Whose. Whose, again, is a word that is describing a person, but actually this word is more precisely going to describe the possession or the ownership of an item, an object. When. I'm sure you guys know that when is a word that we use to describe a time. When did something happen? What time? What year? What day? When. Yeah? And finally we have where. Where is going to be used to describe locations, places. Okay? So these are some very, very simple words, and all you need to do is remember these 6 words, and then I'm going to show you how you can use these 6 words to just extend your answers, to say more, to speak more, and to write more as well. Okay, so let's take a look at some examples of sentences using our relative pronouns. Now these are just very simple sentences, but these are just demonstrations, just to give you an idea of how you can use these relative pronouns more effectively. So let's take a look at our first sentence. I went to school with Paul, who is now a doctor. I went to school with Paul, who is now a doctor. So this word, this relative pronoun here, who, can be used to connect 2 separate sentences. I went to school with Paul. Paul is now a doctor. Yeah. So instead of saying 2 separate sentences, you would say one sentence and link both sentences with the relative pronoun who. I went to school with Paul, who is now a doctor. Grammatically, and from an exam point of view, that is a much better sentence than just saying, I went to school with Paul, Paul is now a doctor. Okay, let's take a look at how we can use which. The movie which we saw last night was great. The movie which we saw last night was great. So the word which, instead of actually linking 2 separate sentences together, is actually providing extra information. So for example, the movie was great. But which movie was great? Well, the movie which we saw last night. was great. Yeah, so this is actually helping us to provide more information to make our sentences longer and actually help us to provide more details. So the movie, which we saw last night, was great. When. You remember when is for describing periods of time. I met my wife when I was at university. I met my wife when I was at university. So when here is describing a time period in the past of when I was at university. Let's take a look at some more sentences. So, our next sentence, the car that ran the red light was blue. The car that ran the red light was blue. So, the word that, okay, is helping us to provide more information about this. The car that ran the red light. The car was blue. That car ran the red light. The car was blue. The car that ran the red light was blue. Again, this is much more grammatically correct and much more a much more efficient way of saying or speaking something in one of your exams. Okay, whose. So whose is a relative pronoun that we use to describe possession. In this case, the man whose house we bought was very old. So the man was very old. Well, which man was very old? Well, the man whose house we bought. He was very old. Yeah? So whose is describing the man whose house we bought. Finally, the place where I would love to visit is Australia. The place where I would love to visit is Australia. Where, as you know, is used to describe locations. In this place, Australia. And we're using where to create an extra clause, which is saying where I would love to visit. Okay, so this was just a very, very simple example of how you can use these relative pronouns to increase and extend what you say in your IELTS, your TOEFL, your Cambridge, or any other English exam that you have to take. These are great ways to extend your sentences in your speaking exam. Now you can also use any of these relative pronouns in your writing as well. If you want to practice using them in your writing, I'd highly recommend that you just check with your grammar book on exactly how you use them in your writing. Doesn't matter when you're speaking, but the rules of using them in your writing are a little bit more complex. Okay, so yeah, I hope you've enjoyed this little introduction to relative pronouns, and I hope you understand a little bit more about how you can use them to extend your answers, to say things in a better way, which will definitely help to improve your score in an IELTS type exam.